Relatively quickly here, I just want to point out the W3Schools.com website. We're going to be using this for the next few weeks to learn interactively a little bit more about HTML and later about CSS. There's a lot of information on the website about a lot of different web technologies that we will not be using. I want to direct your attention to the parts that are important. First of all, learn HTML. There's also information about HTML5. While I am trying to teach HTML in a manner consistent with HTML5, most of the time when you look at HTML5, they assume that you already know HTML and they're just presenting the new features. If you go into Learn HTML, you see that there are a number of tutorials, introduction, different headings. Start at the beginning, go through the exercises, next chapter. The unique thing about this site is the try it yourself feature. If you click on that, it takes you to a page where you have an HTML page and the results shown in a browser. And you can make any kind of edit, or on the left, like something like that, false heading. You click on it, and the changes are reflected over here. This is a way to try out some different things, but feel free to experiment. For instance, there are lessons in here that kind of talk about how a page is interpreted. If I make changes like this and click on it, you see no change over here. By experimenting like this, you find out that browsers ignore breaks in lines. They also ignore extra spaces. Okay, so experiment, try to figure out what you can do with this, play with it. It should all be good. I'm going to close this window, go back in here. So the parts of this that I want you to pay attention to are the HTML basics. Now there are parts in here that you can skip over. For instance, introduction, getting started, basic, elements, attributes, headings, paragraphs, formatting. That's all good. When you get to fonts, and you click on it, first thing it says is this tag should not be used. Okay, you could go ahead and read this if you want, but we will not be using this. It is important that you know why you don't use this, but we won't. Styles is something you can look at, but we're going to be mostly skipping over styles to talk about that next week when we look at styling with CSS in general. Links we are covering this week. But as you get farther down the list here, images, tables, lists are important. Look at that. Forms, no. Frames. Frames is another thing they tell you not to use. Pretty much the first part of this is what we're interested in. Home, through lists, glossing over tables and images, styles, and fonts at this point. The other thing to know about the W3 School site is that it has good reference information. So if I click on HTML, there's all this, but then also there should be information about reference. Maybe if I click on reference. Okay, here you see information about HTML and CSS. So here's a list of all the different tags you can have in HTML. So if there's a tag you're interested in more information about, you can go here and say, Well, what's with this A tag? It defines an anchor. Well, how do you use it? It shows you exactly how to use that tag. So this has reference information as well as tutorials.